Hi everyone, welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, maybe. I don't know where all of you are located. Thank you for joining already our 9th CISO talk. I just had a look at the list this morning. I was really impressed how many CISO talks, how many topics, how many guests, how many attendees we already had, which is really a great thing. So thank you all for joining. Some compliance remark. Our session will be recorded. And we will send around the link to the recording if one of you may have to leave early or want to have it, maybe even not join at all. We will send the link to anyone who participated or at least registered to the event. Today, it's my pleasure to really welcome 3 guests. So it's more than we usually have. Usually we have one or 2 guests. And it's really a great topic we want to discuss about today. So it's mid-September. So Cyber Awareness Month, October is approaching. And our idea was to invite really experts on the awareness topic and ask what can we do for Cyber Awareness Month, which is not a huge project, 3-year project to roll out something. What are small things that have a huge impact, maybe a good starting point for a new awareness program, and that's what we want to talk about today. We launched a little poll on LinkedIn and asked everyone who registered what are their plans for Cyber Awareness Month, and yeah, more than 60% of the replies said they are really doing something. Either they're currently planning or everything is prepared already for Cyber Awareness Month. So it's really a great thing to see that many organizations that really try to engage their people and have a good opportunity in October to really promote the topic in their organizations. The Q&A section is open for everyone. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to just type it in the Q&A section. Also, if you have experience, if you have a little thing you did in your organization or you're planning in your organization and you want to share it with everyone here, also just type it in the Q&A section, and we will discuss it, or I will just mention it, or we can also put you on speaker, so you can tell everyone what your experience is. So for an introduction, I would like to read the bios of our guests quickly. And then I would like to ask everyone for just one recommendation, one small thing to start with, and maybe give an idea for a sample organization with 5,000 employees. How long would it take to really roll out your idea? So just start the ball rolling for the day, and let's see how this discussion goes. And I'm really excited to see what your ideas are, what your experiences are, and you want to share with everyone here. So let's start with Liz. Liz Murray is an enterprise customer success manager at CyberSafe. Liz prior experience were in the military, where she security ethos and values were honored. Then latterly in the global financial services sector, moving from the wider risk and control area to leading the creation and embedding of global organizational people risk-based programs. Liz speaks regularly at events covering the importance of human factors in security, of positively valuing security as part of an organizational culture, and understanding the role played by mental health and well-being in preventing security incidents. Perfect. Very interesting bio, by the way.
Thank you.
So Liz, what is your idea? What is a small thing that could be a starting point?
Okay, so if we're talking about cyber awareness and we're talking about Cyber Awareness Month as a focus here, what I'd look for is what is the policy point that you can't get across that you're finding really difficult to land with your learning campaign, because I'm going to assume there's a learning campaign in place. If we're looking towards cyber awareness, we're looking that we've got learning happening, we're probably trying to operationalize that policy. What's the one thing that's not changing that you're still finding as a risk in your organization? And then work out how you're going to deliver that in a way that your people will understand, in the form of either a creative webinar, maybe using a learning platform that you've got to give you some content. But really what we're trying to do here is turn probably some quite technical language into, I use the would my mother understand test. I try to turn something into, would my mum understand if I explained it to her that way? And then I would probably go down a webinar route, much the same as this to start with, because landing it in a way that is able to be discussed and asked questions of is a great way of passing a message. But I'd caution, let's not boil the ocean here, because you can't change everything all at once. Pick one thing, focus on that in that webinar, and work out what your intent is, what your outcome is that you want, and what you want to do moving forwards as well. And that's actually relatively low tariff. Taking that from for a cyber awareness month, I would suggest that's probably the case of getting together a few people. You're probably looking at 3 or 4 people to get onto a call. And then I'd also look, if we're global, you're probably going to have to repeat it, and you might need to nuance it for those different areas. And you will know for your organization what you need to nuance it for. Is it regulatory things globally? Is it actually that your organization has a regulator above it, financial services, for example? Is there, is there a national requirement that you have to meet? So you would then nuance it for those areas. But that's essentially, that would be my starting point for this.
And then maybe extend it to a real row of events, because the more the people get used to this form of event, the more will participate and engage.
Exactly that. That's your starting point. You then get to your a series that you pull forward, because let's face it, we know that cyber doesn't start and end in October, and we know that helping manage and affect human cyber risk is something that we need to do all of the time.
Perfect. Okay, let's switch to David. David is a founder and CEO of Inky. Inky's flagship product, Inky Fish Fence, uses computer vision and other machine learning techniques to identify and block phishing emails. Prior to Inky, Dave was co-founder and COO of travel search provider ETA Software, where he oversaw software development operations and customer relations, expanding the company to over 500 employees. Dave has a bachelor in computer science and linguistics from the University of Maryland, College Park, and a master in computer science from MIT. Dave also volunteered as a member of the US Department of Energy Secretary Advisory Board on AI. Very interesting topic at the moment, so probably a lot to advise to the governance. Absolutely. Thanks to be with us, David, and thanks to be with us, Liz, and also Katja, before I forget it. So, David, what is your recommendation as a starting point, a small thing that might be even launched before October for the ones who have not completed their planning for October?
Mine's really, really simple. You asked for simple. This is really simple. Start with email. Long term, you need to put email protections in place. We can talk about that. But short term, the simple thing to do, communicate one important message to your users. And that is, do not trust the identity of an email. In particular, when an email asks you to click on something, don't do it. Go outside of the email and go straight to the website of that email. So for example, if you're, and I think it's very important to frame this with a specific example that an everyday user will understand. User, let's say you get an email that appears to be from British Airways. It's asking you to check in for your flight, take some action. Don't click on the link in the mail, even though it's pretty and it has a nice, beautiful button. Do not click the button. Instead, go outside of email, go to your browser, type in British Airways, and do it from there. That simple rule will protect users both at work and at home. And it will begin to teach users to not trust the identity of senders of email. Literally everything we do on detection at Inky is about detecting forgery and impersonation. And the problem with email is it's very easy to impersonate people and brands in ways that are utterly convincing to end users. They're not visually distinguishable in some cases. And email is the source of almost every ransomware incident you hear about. 90% of breaches come through emails. So start with a simple communication, and I think it's very important to keep it to like one paragraph. When you get an email that appears to be from a brand, don't do anything with that email in email. Go outside to the browser, go to that brand's site, and take the action through their site.
And you probably need different channels to transport this message, not only sending an email, which maybe fake as well, but also have, I don't know, what Liz mentioned, maybe a webinar, maybe internal communication, maybe something in an official event embedded or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then the key idea is don't trust the identity of an email sender.
Yep. Okay.
Go outside of email.
Perfect. Thank you. So our last guest, Katja Dörlemann, is a security awareness expert at Switch. As part of Switch's computer emergency response team, she supports the education, research, innovation, and internet community in dealing with the human factor of information security. She promotes knowledge exchange and networking among experts as a leader of or a participant in working groups, expert circles, as a speaker, lecturer, or a co-host of the Security Awareness Insider podcast. She is the acting president of the Swiss Internet Security Alliance and Women in Cyber Switzerland. Katja Dörlemann has been gaining experience in the field of security awareness for more than 10 years and holds a PhD in general and comparative literature from the University of Zurich. And yeah, I had the pleasure to watch some of the podcasts Katja does together with Marcus. So and anyone in the German-speaking area who doesn't know the podcast, it's really worth it. Maybe we can also share with the link to the recording, the link to the podcast. It's really worth it. They do it, I think, once a month with different topics, different guests, and focus on really security awareness. And it's really good source of information and practical experience.
Thank you for that advertisement.
Okay, Katja, thank you for being with us. And what is your recommendation? Small thing to start, maybe even start in this October as a starting point for maybe more.
So it's it's a people topic, right? So it always kind of depends. So for me, it's really hard to give like a tip that is like a general thing to do. But let's put it like this. If you are an organization and you have budget and ambition, you want to really change something, I would say sit together with your team in October and make a plan and figure out what you want to, like, what are the target groups? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? What are your pain points? As Liz said, like, what's your main thing that you want to address? And then start a plan and then roll it out maybe next October. that would be my tip for people who have budget and resources a little bit. If you have none of it, which is like sadly mostly the case,
yeah.
I would, and you really need to do something like fast because someone told you to start with something. I would take the last incident that happened, maybe in your own organization or in someone else's organization that you find in the media, or I don't know, and make a story around it. Tell people, this happened, this is what caused it, this is why it happened, this is how we prevent it, and this is how you can be part of our security and make our organization more secure. And then embed, obviously, the very important message that David just told us about. Don't trust emails. Usually they come from outside, etc., etc. So, but wrap it up and tell a story and use one incident. I would, and that usually, if you're a little talented at writing and just a little bit good with words, that takes you, I don't know, half a day maybe, but this is already, because you have to sit down, you have to look for an appropriate incident, then writing the story, then deciding where to publish it. But also there, if you think you cannot do it on your own because you lack the skills or the time, even those 3 hours that you would need to spend, go and look for someone who could help you, maybe from the communications department, HR, finance, I don't know, someone who could help you. You know, usually people are connected somehow within an organization, and that, you know, go to have a coffee and just chat with someone, and maybe you will find someone who might help you. That would be my tips. Yeah.
Two important aspects from my point of view and also from my experience. So first of all, make it as understandable as possible. So take a story of the people's lives, to not just, oh, something might happen and this technical thing must come together with this technical thing. Be specific, and build a network in your organization. It's a people thing, and it's important to get help from other departments, other inputs, whatever. Let's think two different aspects. Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So now I would like to start a discussion, because the small things just might be a starting point, or should be a starting point, because awareness is not just an event or just an email or just one communication. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so let's start a discussion. What is really what is necessary to really implement and establish and run a program to manage risk? So guys, from your experience, and I want to hear your views, all of your views on that one, in either sequence. I don't mind. From your experience, what do people need to make smart and secure decisions in critical situations? So what should the people focus on? What tools should they provide their employees, their colleagues, to make smart decisions? And tools, not only software, but tools also, I don't know, checklist, trainings, whatever.
Who do you want to start?
Does it work, or just should I pick?
Well, very happy to start, because you have the situation where people need the knowledge of what it is that they need to do. They need to understand what the risk is, how that risk affects them, why it's relevant to them, back to the wording that they understand, so bringing it back to the people, and what they need to do about it. Now, you as an organization, as a CISO, you're trying to reduce risk. You know what your risks are. You know which bits you've managed to sort out with technology. There's an awful lot of protective technology we can put in place. So then you can discount the things that actually on a day-to-day basis, most people won't need to do anything about. That's fine. You know, for example, you can put in place, you need a strong password that is made up of a passphrase of 3 random words. Actually, if that's part of your technical stack, that's something you can discount. So it's then lead you towards what you need to focus on. And then when you focus on it, you have to go, okay, for example, with the phishing emails, if I've noticed that I've got a phishing email, do I have the tools to report it? Do I know where that button is? Is it something that's easy to do? And if it's easy, do I know when to press it? Do I have the knowledge to recognize, do I know when to press it? And then has the organization in the background got everything set up so that it can deal with it? So it's about it's knowledge, skills, and behavior, or it's the COM-B model, isn't it? It's the capability, the opportunity, the motivation to change that behavior, because ultimately we're after that long-term behavior change. And this is why it's ongoing. And I think when we establish a program, what we're really looking to do is to go, okay, here's our baseline education. There's our policy. Our policy reduces risk. No, it doesn't. Our policy tells us that we need to reduce risk, and then we need to work out how we do it. Mm-hmm. We then say, okay, what do I need my people to know? I don't need them to know the ins and outs of the policy. I need them to know, in the context of their job, what they need to do on any given day to help implement that policy. And then I need to give them the tools and the education so that they can help to actually deliver it. And then there's a variety of different ways we can do that. I'll hand over, because I know there's a huge amount of knowledge sitting here, with Katja and David. So I'm not going to steal everyone's sandwiches. Just, I could talk about this all day. So
I think all of us, that's why we're here.
Absolutely that.
But I mean, I totally agree. If I can I take over? Like,
Yeah,
or
sure.
I totally agree with like everything you say. Basically, it's just in my point or in my experience, what people kind of forget, what gets forgotten during the process is how important is the motivation part for the employees.
Mhm.
Because like teaching them and telling them what they do and why they do it and how, etc., blah blah, is one thing, and this is usually what people focus on the knowledge, on like teaching them and the training, like e-learning. But then it takes effort, because security is an effort they need to take on top of what they are actually already doing, right? It's something that stops them from working. It's in some cases, in unfortunate cases, but it's also it takes them extra time, so they need extra motivation. So I cannot stress that enough. We have to make people aware in the original sense of the word. Like, we have to raise interest in this topic. And this is something you do not get by just telling them why, or do not do this or do not do that. It's more like involving them, like telling stories, like telling them a little bit of, make it relevant, as you already said also. And that's means that sometimes you have to do things that out of a management or like, you know, of a perspective who's giving you the money, it's not really seen as useful. Because it might be maybe just, I don't know, a workshop on how to save your kids at home. And this has nothing to do with your work at first. But on a second thought, it has a lot to do with that, because people all of a sudden see that security is a relevant factor in their lives. And that means next time you switch on, you tell them to do the e-learning or tell them not to click the link, they actually listen. So, and do not think, ugh, this again, I don't have time for that. And then on a second thing is like this whole processes and tools is also often like not really thought through. It's like we really have to acknowledge that those employees, they are experts on their special field. They have priorities that are not ours. It's our priority is security. Our expertise is security. Theirs it's not, and it shouldn't be. So we have to like really have clear processes, as Liz said. They really have to know what to do once they encounter a problem. They have to have the tools, a password manager, for example. This is something you cannot live without a password manager, or you can live without it, but then you will most probably have a lot of people choosing weak passwords. So yeah, I mean, the motivation and the processes, motivation first, then the processes and tools. Those two things are things that we really cannot forget if we have a successful awareness campaign and raise our security awareness level.
Absolutely. And we just get not a question but a remark from Joel in the Q&A section, and Liz already answered it, but I want to highlight it for the ones who are not able to read the Q&A because they're watching the recording, and also highlight for anyone who maybe not watching the Q&A section. Joel mentioned that it's not about defining and rolling out the tool. All the tools also need to be tested. So it's clear in business continuity management, for example, it's clear that you have to test it, but you also have to test it in awareness, in any security area. You have to test what you define, but because it's only on paper, and if you're lucky, the people know where the paper is, they can look at, but you also have to test, not only to check whether it's working, but also to make people aware and make it something they don't have to think about. In the end of the day, it's important that it's just it's so normal to do it that they don't have to think about it. That's what we try to achieve, and that's a really far goal and hard to achieve goal, but that's the final goal. The people shouldn't have to search for documentation how to report an incident. They just should do it.
I think that's a really good point. And one of the things we've learned at Inky, I mean, we used AI to block phishing. So when we started out, we thought we're just going to have this amazing AI that perfectly blocks all the phish. All of you know that's impossible, right? You can't perfectly do this. One of the things we learned over time was that the AI can be useful not just for blocking the obvious phish, but also for giving users more information at the moment they're interacting with the email. And the way that works is we pick a minority of emails, 10%, 12%. It's important to keep it a fairly small percentage. And we look at the AI's analysis of the mail, and the AI can see things that are not obvious to the end user. For example, this mail looks like a perfect mail from Microsoft. It's actually not from a Microsoft domain we know about, so it's probably not from them. That's something the user may not know. We can surface that by putting a yellow banner in the mail, and the yellow banner tells them something that the AI figured out about the mail that might not be obvious to them. And our goal is twofold there, really. One is to almost give the user a superpower, make them able to see things about the mail they can't otherwise see, but also just make them slow down. And right at the moment where we know this mail is either potentially malicious or it's sensitive, asking them to wire money or buy gift cards or do something that seems a little suspicious, we put this in front of them and they slow down. And we found that that makes a huge difference. We've actually empirically measured this. So I think giving users more information in a way they can understand at the moment where they're doing something potentially dangerous is critical. And not just thinking about AI as, hey, it's binary. The AI is going to magically decide this is good mail or bad mail. That works for some cases, but there's a long tail of cases where the human has to be the final arbiter.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned before, the way they might arbitrate this is they might go outside of email. So, we'll tell them, hey, this may not be the person that you think it is from this other organization. Hit them up on Slack or WhatsApp or call them, go outside of email to verify the identity of the sender.
Yeah.
That can be a great nudge as well, because you're talking about the banner alerts, which are awesome. They're such an easy way of initially showing. And what we like to do at CISO, we've done an awful lot of work on behavioral nudging. So at the point at which someone's about to do that behavior, you go, are you sure you want to do that? And it's done through integrations, which, I know you'll know about. So, those integrations actually stop. And it's very much the same as the nudge in the car that shows you there's something over your right or left shoulder, depending on whether you're left hand or right hand.
Exactly.
To go, by the way, there's something there you need to be aware of. And it is exactly that. It's that behavioral nudge that just stops you in that moment, gives you the couple of seconds to go, something's not quite right. My spidey senses now tell me there's something not quite right with that. The nudge has helped me, it's backed me up, and it's also gone, perhaps don't do that, do this instead, at a point at which you're about to do it. So being able to use anything like that is just so key to helping change behavior, because when you get one of those, you go, okay, I've got it. When you've had 3, 4 at different times over the course of a different day, you might go, actually, that's landed. We know it takes 15 times of repeating a message, a learning message, for that to actually land. So it's going to take time, and it has to come in lots of different methods. I know Katya was talking about the different ways of communicating, and that's very much key. It's alert banners, it's nudges at behavioral points, it's communications that land because they're innovative or creative. And then it's the learning. I tell you what is also key, though, is buy-in from the top. And CISOs, and we've got great CISOs on this call. You're fantastic. The wider organization looks to somebody else. If someone's after them, if it's a sales organization, who's the person at the top of sales who's going to really influence? Because when you can show that security is going to give you a growth, because it will give you a return on investment, just because you've saved the organization from a cyber attack, who's the person that will deliver that message and show that it's important in the sales channel, that it's important in your human resources channel? It's all about who are these people that will deliver that message. Lars, you spoke to champions, and there are senior champions, and then you've got your champions lower down in the organization as well. But never underestimate the power that the CEO or somebody at that level has in just mentioning cybersecurity and staying secure and checking in the course of an all hands or a town hall. It's key.
So in the end of the day, it's a mixture. I mean, it's a mixture of technology, AI, whatever. It's a mixture of training. It's a mixture of process. it's a mixture of culture as well. So that's I think, and you need all of that to really be successful in the end of the day.
I think Liz makes a really good analogy to cars. And I think this is a really important paradigm shift for CISOs to take when they think about AI. Every cybersecurity vendor says they have AI. What does that mean? Who knows in some cases? But what Liz is pointing out is, think about self-driving cars. Despite what Elon Musk says, I would not trust my life to a self-driving car. The AI is not good enough to be perfect. It's not as good as a human. But to Liz's point, it means doesn't mean it's useless, because the AI can give us affordances. It can keep us a certain distance from the car in front of us. It can warn us when we're about to change lanes into another car. It can actually even kind of keep us within the lanes, which is pretty cool. So in the same way, AI for cybersecurity isn't quite there in the sense that it's as good as a human at identifying threats. And arguably humans aren't perfect at this either anyway, just like they're not perfect at driving cars. But that doesn't mean the AI is useless. And the way we think about the AI, and I think the way CISO should think about the AI is, it can help with obvious cases like lane keeping, and it can give users affordances, more information, and help at the point where they're about to do something bad.
It's a piece of the puzzle. It can be a piece of the puzzle, but it's not that you can rely 100% on it. Yeah. So
Exactly.
we got a question from David about I just read it. I think that's the easiest one. Automation is useful, but strong instruction and training is critical. E-learning is only 50% of awareness. How do you prepare live events for multiple international teams in multiple regions in multiple languages? Maybe a question for Liz or for Katja. I don't know. Are you? Or I definitely for Liz. Yeah.
Happy, and then hand over to Katja if that works, because let's face it, Katja is on here as a native German speaker delivering in English, and quite often I found myself delivering to an Asia Pacific audience in English. After 2 coffees, I have to be really careful because I speak in ones and zeros after 3 coffees. So I need to I need to very much slow down my delivery. But equally, this is about having native speaking champions in those locations. It is key. If the language of your organization is English, that's great. That might not land for some elements of your organization, particularly if you're working maybe. I know there's quite a lot of organizations who have departments in Shanghai, for example. And whilst the people that are amazing on email at English, day to day, they're communicating in their local Chinese language. Actually, pull together, find out who the person in your team is who can help you deliver there, and then deliver the message that you need. Because also culturally, you're needing to bridge a divide as well. And I think, when we're bridging cultural and language divides, we lose messages sometimes. And actually, if we can help deliver that by having champions across your organization, that's a really key way to do it. It's not easy to do, because you need to make sure that the intent that you're delivering in one country is understood and also delivered similarly in another country, because they don't always translate exactly. And you may also be working with local rules and regulations that are slightly different. I know we're all about the people here, and phishing simulations, for example, that's not a stick to beat someone with when someone has fallen prey to it. It's an education opportunity to help them protect the next time. It's part of that. I'm going to come back to a driving analogy. It's part of a driving lesson, so that when someone's on their own, without the hand on the shoulder to go, by the way, did you realize that was a phishing email, they get to take the right action. Actually, sometimes there's a cultural gap that needs to be bridged organizationally in countries that don't take such a what would be considered a soft line in it. And actually, we need to try to make it so that cyber and security awareness people are trusted. We need to be that place to come to. When I've got a problem, I need to be able to ask a person. If I've really messed up, I really need to be able to ask a person. So we have to start to embed that trust. And that's something that we need to do culturally, which can be quite tricky.
Katja, anything to add? I mean, Switzerland is kind of also international.
I mean, most international organizations that I know and that have a successful security awareness program, they work with an ambassador program or security champions, or however you may call them. That is, as Liz just explained, a person in the local somewhere organization that is responsible for security and therefore also responsible for security awareness mostly, or maybe they have two people for that. But this works usually, and on my point of view, that's the only way it works, because also what Liz said, I want to support that statement strongly. It is a matter of how do you say that, personal approachability. I don't know. You need a face. People like faces. It obviously depends a little bit in what culture you are moving. You are wandering around with the topic, but usually people like someone, something to connect to, and it's easier for them to access the topic, to know where to turn to, than just an email or some CISO that is, I don't know, in a country far, far away. So this is one thing. I just want to stress out that this is a matter of community building. So it's not enough to just name one person to be your security person in this country, in this location. You really have to maintain a community, and that is, you have to have meetings that are like, I don't know, monthly, weekly even, I don't know. You have to kind of give them a reward. Those people need to feel special. They need to feel appreciated for the extra effort. They need to be passionate. So choose wisely. You need someone who's communicating what you want to communicate. You need someone who's well connected. If you're, the best choice, well connected in the local organization, and someone who knows the local culture, who again has a little flair for words and language, and maybe pictures. And then you have to trust this person. So if this person says, okay, I mean, this poster or this communication, this presentation works fine, maybe in Germany, Switzerland, I don't whatsoever, but in China, we cannot use this picture, this wording, I don't know, then you have to trust this person. And this is a lot of effort, like maintaining a community and keeping it active and engaged is a huge effort. So again, it depends. If you have ambition and you have budget and you have people, you have resources, you can do all of that and you can do it perfectly and it works, but you need people to do that. If you're one person alone and you're just trying, I don't know, someone told you, okay, usually, like, I don't know, the SAN security awareness report again stated this year that most people who are responsible for security awareness have like less than 25% of their time to dedicate to dedicate their time to security awareness. So this is not a lot, and maintaining a community in addition to create measures to choose your target group, your topics, your etc. Is just, it's not enough. So you have to you have to do something that you can actually do. And if you are one of those CISOs who is also the security awareness officer, I strongly advise, or I would recommend trying to hustle your management and convince them to give you some more resources. Because also the SAN security awareness report this year, I mean, it's really no surprise, but there you have it like written down with charts and numbers. This is the language the management understands, that leadership support and the team size are most crucial to have a successful security awareness program. So, if you don't have that, you can do things, but it's just, you have to just manage your expectations. That's what I'm saying. So this whole security champion or ambassador program is nice to have. And often people think like, oh, great, I can just outsource stuff. Not really. You still have to do a lot to maintain this whole community.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
I think key to remember here is that this is about the human risk that you're unable to influence in any other way. And when we start to talk in terms of risk to the board and in terms of and risk professionals, and we talk about the fact that actually if we can influence a behavior and we can prove that we're influencing a behavior because we've got metrics for it, and this comes through the nudging, for example, What if you start nudging and you nudge 100 people? The 100 people all fall prey to a phishing simulation on day one, and then when you put a simulation past them again, actually they all report the next one because they've had the nudge. You're showing some behavior change. If you've got demonstrable metrics that can show those elements, you have to be careful and pick and choose which ones you're going to deliver. But if you've got any form of integration that can show change in behavior, you are showing that you're actually influencing a human behavior, which is therefore influencing your human risk. And I think really key about this is also making sure that we're linking in and integrating with other areas of the organization. For example, I would be putting, and you spoke in my bio about mental health and well-being. If I've got a well-being initiative going, I want to be able to put some things into there. And I also want to be able to mirror their language in my communication, because it will land with an entire community of people. If our organization is stressed, people are more likely to make a mistake, fall prey to a cyber threat actor when they're stressed. If we can start linking in with them and start that integration of communication, we start to push our culture out to other champions for us. And that then reduces risk. And we know organizations are worried about the health and well-being of their people, and it's something that they measure what that is. Actually, if we're reducing that stress because of something we're doing as well, then we start to also deliver metrics that can help. And it is about speaking that language to risk professionals, which then helps get the resource to move awareness programs forward. And it's really key to make sure that we're not trying to suggest that awareness is a bolt-on. It's an integral part of reducing and managing human cyber risk in an organization.
Yeah, and metrics and measuring is not only for the management, it's also for the program itself, because you have to know where to head, and you have to understand, are we heading in the right direction? Are we changing something? And it's also far easier to see if we do have the metrics.
Exactly that.
I'd like to highlight one thing that Katja said earlier, because I think it's incredibly important. She said, find someone in your organization to collaborate with, to communicate with the organization, because your staff may not be the best communicators. There are people in marketing where that's their whole job, is to be very effective communicators. Find the best writer in your company. Make sure that you do that for each of the localities you want to serve, and get them to collaborate with you to produce the content that you want to put in front of users. This is the reason why, we have 75 different messages we put in banners times 35 languages. We don't show users in Taiwan English. We show them Taiwanese banners with traditional Chinese characters, not simplified. So it's really important to meet people where they are culturally and linguistically, I think. And I would say, especially in written form, communication is really difficult, and you've got to get the tone right, especially when you're the security leader, who probably the user's going to think, oh, here we go again with the security guy. I think it's very important to get the tone exactly right in these messages.
Yeah,
we actually spent a lot of time on our banner language, just what we say in those banners, to make sure that it's not, like Liz's mum test, right? Exactly the same kind of thing. If people perceive this as some mumbo jumbo about ransomware, you're going to ignore it. But if you give them something that they, as a normal non-technical person, will understand, they perceive that as, oh, this thing's actually kind of useful. I'm going to pay attention to it now.
That's what I also wanted to, thank you very much. Exactly. Also what I wanted to point out in the beginning. It's again, like, awareness is mainly built out of those three areas, which is the raising awareness, knowledge and training, and processes and tools somehow. And again, most of the companies are focusing on the training and knowledge part. And because this is where you don't need communication skills. For the tools and the process to adapt processes, you need change management skills, and for the whole awareness thing, you really need those marketing skills. That people, like, the marketing discipline has, like, perfectionized. I mean, we all buy products that we don't need because we think we need them, because someone told us our lives will be better. So And why don't we learn from them? That's what I'm wondering for a long time already now. And because it's really slow. And also usually, and this is the case because most people who are responsible for security awareness in organizations have a background in IT. So they don't have time and they don't have the skills they would need to address this awareness part, to actually focus on the words, on the language. And this is a problem. This is why exactly like building alliances, find friends, collaborations with the departments in your organizations that have those skills. Sometimes also an experience, it's really hard to convince them that it's their problem or that it could be their problem or that you really need their help and they find the time to really help you. But I don't know, find a way to bribe them. Find something that they really like to eat or drink or I don't know what they miss in their office and make friends. So yeah.
It is so key to be speaking. I've said it's key a lot. There are so many different things that are all facets of delivering this, but those allies are marketing, absolutely. Getting embedded into an organizational comms campaign that sits outside of security is just an amazing way of being able to deliver your message, because the marketing people will put it in language. They'll ask you, they'll say, what does that actually mean? When you're telling them you must report a phishing email because that will prevent a cybersecurity incident, they'll go, okay, what does that mean? What is a cybersecurity incident? What does that look like? What's a phishing email? Where can I find that information? And then the other element that's really part of this is making sure that there is a circular loop that comes back around. So we want to be able to point people to policy. People always ask why. Why do I need to do that? Tell me why it's important. I'm time poor. I'm really busy doing my day-to-day job. Why do I need to do that? Well, actually, that's policy. We know that policy is influencing our risk. We're reducing our risk because we've got a policy. No, we're not. We're telling everybody how to reduce our risk because we've got a policy. Our policy then comes down to processes, which comes down to the controls, which comes down to the actions we need people to take. If we can describe to someone and show them what that looks like in a lot of different ways, why is it important to me? Well, I'll tell you what, here's an article that's written. It's written in amazingly creative language by a marketing professional, and it's really engaging. And you come off the back of it and go, okay, wow, I'm really enthused. I understand why ransomware in an organization is a really bad thing for where I work. But I also want to keep my family safe. So I've also seen that article there covers that. It's the same detail, but it's in two different ways. But hey, they both say, if I want to find out more, I go and look on that platform that my organization is using to deliver this, or I can check the policy to see that what I'm doing works, or I know that little nudge that's just come up because I've made a little bit of a boo-boo on my Slack channel is stopping me from making an error. I know why that is, but now I also know where to find extra information. I can go to a SharePoint site that will point me to learning or point me to policy, or better, point me to the team who can help me understand, so that when I have that question, they'll answer me, but they'll answer me in brand cyber or brand infosec in a way that helps me to trust them. They're not going to berate me for not knowing. They're going to help me understand. And that's what we really need to be getting people to do, is to help them understand that when they have made that error, because all of this is about, what do I want? I want people to report if they've seen something. I want people to report if they've done something. And I want people to know where to come if they really need some help. And that's about how you're getting the people involved. And that's as much and as little as it is, because that will help us reduce the risk. All the metrics and how we measure that and help them change their behaviors and come to us, that's all the periphery. And it's so much work to influence those three things. It is heaps, but it's layered. And if we layer it right, we start to have this beautiful brand of InfoSec or cyber that delivers those messages for us.
Perfect. Thank you all. Great discussion. But I'm afraid the time is ticking, so we only have 10 minutes left. And I want to close the session already, but ask you, all of my guests, one additional thing. So what can our participants do later today or tomorrow? One small thing. So we started with a thing, a bigger thing, but also small thing to start their program with. But what would be a really small thing they can start, or they can take with them today and do it later today or tomorrow? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Yep.
I would pick 1, 2, or 3, certainly no more than 3 key
Yep.
messages.
Yep.
Work with a known good communicator in your company and tell that person what you want to communicate. If they're like my mom, who's a professional writer, they will say, "What are you trying to say?" I have no idea what you're talking about. Go through that exercise, which may take half an hour, 45 minutes, to figure out those 3 things, how to communicate them in 1 sentence or 2, and start by communicating those 3 things.
Great.
I think I'd carry on from that. And I think the next bit of that is probably to make sure that if you're delivering, or when you're delivering those messages, that you can find all of the information where you expect to find it. Follow the flow through and make sure that you've got you're asking sensible things of people who aren't InfoSec or cyber specialists. Do your processes work for people? But also, is the messaging working? So if I read something that's come out and it comes back to, so I've got my 3 messages, they're going to have come from either some policy or something that I've got that's learning. When I'm looking at those messages that I'm delivering, do they say what I need them to, and are they landing that message at that level? So that if I go back from the what am I trying to say, it's, does everything else that I've got support those messages? So we start to make sure that our sense is there, and just make sure that process follows through, and make sure it follows through from the risk you're trying to influence as well. Perfect. Katja?
I would say tomorrow on your way to work, listen to our podcast if you're a German speaker. And the first thing to do in the office is send out a lunch invite to your communications department. Go to lunch and then maybe make a plan and analyze the current situation of your information security in the organization, and start from there by just having a look at your budget, your resources, and your main pain points that you need to address, and then obviously start from there to get more resources, etc. That's a lot of tips, right? But the first important thing, invite your communications to lunch.
And have a good lunch.
A good lunch. Yeah, and don't
not just
greedy.
McDonald's.
Yeah, spend some money for that.
Thank you so much to all of my guests, all of the attendees. We had quite some. We had a good number today. Just saw it. If you want to learn more about our solutions, our offerings, if you have any other questions, please reach out to Andy or to myself. We are always here to help. As I already mentioned, we will send out the link to the recording, as well as the link to Katja's and Marcus' podcast later today or tomorrow, to all of you who were able to join today, and also all of you who were not able to join but registered. And there will be one additional CISO talk probably in November. We already started planning, but the topic is not fixed yet. So if you have any idea, any wishes about a topic we could cover in November, also reach out to us. We're always open for input, for ideas from our customers, our audience. And thank you so much for everyone, and have a good afternoon, morning, day, evening, whatever. And see you in November at the latest. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.